Today we are talking about 5 Terraria mods that you need to play. This list is for the people either getting into modded Terraria or the people that only play the Calamity mod and or Thoria mod, because believe it or not, there is other mods out there. But that's not a diss to those 2 mods, but they are literally the most popular Terraria content mods, so most people already know about them. To start off this list, it is the mod of Redemption. The mod of Redemption is a giant Terraria content mod with tons of bosses, new biomes, and new structures. I believe of the time of me recording this, Chippy is doing a playthrough of it, so if you're hesitant and want to see some gameplay, you could go check out his videos. But this mod easily has some of the coolest and unique boss designs I've seen from a mod. From things like Urhan the High Priest and bosses like Kingslayer III, there is some really dope themes in this mod. This Terraria mod also adds in probably my favorite modded dungeon, that being the Abandoned Laboratory. The laboratory has a bunch of mini bosses that you go through each level and fight, all to end up at Patient Zero, which is this giant nasty monster waiting for you at the end of the laboratory. The sprites in this mod are just excellent. There isn't anything to complain about for me. Same thing with the weapons, they're all very unique and up to par with standard Terraria items, obviously probably way better than regular Terraria weapons. I also like that this mod adds in a cool little summon subclass called the Crux cards, which kind of work like the bell summons from Elden Ring. Another thing I like about this mod is the events it adds in. One of them is called the Graveyard, which is a bunch of skeletons, and then there's the other one called the Foul Morning, which adds in a bunch of chickens that attack you. The lore from this mod is also really good, but other than that, it's just a great mod, and if you haven't played it, I recommend you try it out. Definitely probably the first mod I'd recommend on this list if you're looking for a giant content mod to play. The next mod we're going to be talking about is the Fargos mod. This mod is the perfect mod to throw into a mod pack where you don't want too much modded content, but you still want some new weapons and a couple of new boss fights. This mod adds in some really good weapons, and on top of that, the boss fights are crazy. So if you enjoy really good Terraria boss fights, this is the perfect mod for it. We're honestly barely scratching the surface because this is the mod you install if you think Terraria is way too easy. The Fargos mod is the mod that adds in Eternity mode, aka an insanely hard difficulty boost with new boss fights pretty much, and just a way harder base game. You can think of it as Terraria's true master mode, where if the Terraria developers, instead of just, multiplying a couple of numbers here and there, if they really sat there and developed and made every boss fight insanely hard, but still rewarded you with good items from it. I do have to mention that the Fargos set of mods, they're sort of like a pack of mods you gotta install together, because they're kind of split up into different things. Like the Fargos Mutant mod just adds in a couple of NPCs and a couple of other new things, but really if you want that good juicy content, you gotta install the Fargos Soul mod with it. I didn't even really touch on the Souls part, which are these ultimate accessories that you literally take bunches and bunches of materials to craft and make some insanely strong accessories. So if you're playing on Eternity mode, you're definitely going to want to get your hands on these accessories and souls and enchantments. I think the craziest thing about the Fargos mod is these champion bosses that you fight post Moonlord, which are definitely up there with some of those super Terraria bosses you've seen, like Noxus and the Nameless Deity. Like, they are legit insane boss fights. After the Fargos mod, we have the Stars Above. This mod is literally the weapons Terraria mod. Just look at the descriptions for some of these weapons. Insanely long, insanely detailed, and easily the best weapons I've seen from any mod in Terraria. Like, there's literally a weapon that turns you into a dragon. But this mod isn't only about weapons. This mod has some of the craziest boss fights I've ever seen. Like, some of the bosses are literally voiced and will give you whole ass monologues. From my memory, there's like no other Terraria mods that have voiced bosses. This mod easily has some of the most like unique looking Terraria bosses, because I'm gonna pop a picture on the screen. Just look how different all of them are from each other. This mod also adds in a bunch of cool mechanics, one of them being the Starfarers, where you literally pick between 2 companions, and those companions will not only guide you through the mod, but they'll sometimes talk to you, and also depending on the companion you choose, that decides what weapons you can use later on. It's really just a great mod overall. Difficulty wise, I'd probably put it more on the harder side because some of those bosses can get really tough. Now, if we want to bring it down a level and install a Terraria mod that's sort of like a DLC to the base game, a mod like the Spirit mod is literally perfect for that. Though the mod is a little bit more tame compared to the other mods we talked about in terms of difficulty, it still adds in so much stuff. I'm talking new biomes, new events, new bosses, new new NPCs, mini bosses, all kinds of stuff. It even adds an NPC called a gambler, so you could feed your crippling addiction in game. The new biomes and structures from this mod are probably the best I've seen from any mod in terms of how you gotta either fight the boss in those structures or biomes, and how you just interact with the place in general. Like, oh, I stumbled into this new area. Hey, what happens if I click on this flower? Boom, now you're fighting the boss of that new area. Vanilla Terraria doesn't really have things like that too often, so when you find it in a mod like this, it's really nice. It just adds a lot more detail to the world. I just like how everything from this mod meshes together really well with Vanilla Terraria. The same thing could be said about Thorium, which I always consider Thorium to be pretty much a DLC to Terraria. So you can consider the Spirit mod DLC number 2. There's also a mini boss in here that exists because of my contributions, which is the Snowmonger, aka an addition to the Frost Legion, because the Frost Legion doesn't get any love from Relogic, so we had to do it ourselves. The last mod on here, which y'all probably saw coming, it's the Starlight River mod. This mod is what I still consider the greatest Terraria mod ever made, and it's not even close to being finished. Currently, it only has 2 bosses and a mini boss, but those 2 bosses and even the mini boss are some of the greatest Terraria modded boss fights I've ever played. These bosses have all the things that make Terraria bosses amazing. Things like using the terrain in the boss fight. Any Terraria boss that does this, either modded or vanilla, not a lot of vanilla ones do it, if any at all, but bosses that are constantly manipulating the terrain and you have to adapt during the boss fight is such a sick idea in any video game. And both the bosses in this mod do exactly that. The whole arena is literally a part of the boss fight, and I love it so much. Starlight River is easily the highest quality Terraria mod ever made, and you can really see it. From the boss fights, from the weapons, from the armor, from the accessories, from everything in this mod, you really see how quality and how good this mod is. Now, is it on the same level as content as like Calamity or Thorium? Absolutely not. Those mods have been out way longer and had a lot more time to get things done. But if you want a Terraria mod that's pretty short, but it contains the best gameplay of any Terraria mod you'll play, then you need to play Starlight River. My honorable mentions for this video: if you are someone that is completely new to modded Terraria, then give Thorium and the Calamity mod a spin. Though they are the most popular and majority of people have played them, still play them anyways. They're great mods. There's no reason to skip out on them. But my other honorable mentions that we'll probably cover in a future video: Homeward Journey is easily one of them. Secrets of the Shadows is another. Exo Avalon finally just updated for T-Mod Loader 1.4, which that is a OG mod from way back in the day. The Spooky mod, aka one of my favorite themed Terraria mods ever. And then something like the Remnants mod, which completely changes up the world generation for Terraria. But those are my top 5 Terraria mods that you need to play. If you guys have any other mods and honorable mentions, go ahead and leave them in the comments, because there's obviously a bunch that I missed. But thank you for watching the video. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, all that good stuff so you won't miss a video. And I will see y'all in the next one.